America, welcome to the Business Pulse. I'm Chuck Barham. We're brought to you by the Freedom Chamber online at freedomchamber.net. It's good to be back with the fellas. It's Rod Martin, it's Dean Owen, and we're going to jump right into it. And Rod, I want to get your thoughts. I've seen you all over other different networks and channels, and I've been itchy to talk to you about your thoughts on Iran and where we're headed and what it means for the economic forecast of America as we head towards the midterms.
Well, let's just start with the obvious. This is a shocking victory. We are just absolutely blowing the Iranian regime's entire strategy out of the water, and it's not limited to them. Everything that has happened completely confounded the Chinese threat assessment. Their entire plan or assessment of what the United States would do, when it would do it, how it would do it, whether it would do it at all, 100% wrong. So you've got significant panic in Beijing. You've got real fears in the regime leadership of a popular uprising in China if that is successful in Iran. So Trump is achieving something that you will not actually hear on CNN at all, which is really quite striking. However, what you will hear on CNN, I was very impressed. They actually covered a poll yesterday from NBC. So, NBC is not our friend. CNN is not our friend. They found, as did the New York Post, as has Rasmussen, as has Fox, that there's basically no divide within self-identified MAGA. And, people want to quibble about that because obviously Tucker Carlson represents everyone on earth, certainly all of the conservatives. Wrong. Among Trump 2024 voters, support for the president on Iran is overwhelming. We're talking in the high 80s. And a particular question was asked in the New York Post poll, do you trust the president or podcasters like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Megyn Kelly? And the response was remarkable. Depending on which question asked, the president got 83, 85, or 86% support. The podcasters got 6 on all 3 questions. So are they causing division? Yes. Are they causing trouble? Yes. Is it going to matter? No. And not only that, but we've seen support for the president's position in the overall electorate go up since the beginning. It was about 50-50 on opening day. Depending on which poll you look at, it can be as high as 59 to 61% support among likely voters now. So I would contend that the president is winning this domestically as well as overseas. And whether we get to an actual overthrow of the government by the Iranian people remains to be seen. But the encouraging thing over the weekend was we began to see targeted drone strikes in the streets on specific individual Revolutionary Guard members. Israel and the United States are taking these thugs out when they go out to try to control the population and shoot them on sight if they protest. They are dying at copious rates, and a lot of them, we're hearing, are afraid to go out in the streets and do their evil jobs. So as that attrition continues, I think we get an uprising in Iran. I think it can be successful, and I'm really encouraged by it.
Something I found really interesting on Iran is, I don't know if it was our CIA, our military, FBI, somebody came up with an app written in Arabic so that the people in Iran could tell the U.S. and Israeli forces where the Republican Guard are. And then it's very easy. Of course, we got satellites. You can see a mouse from outer space. You can check, verify, that's what it is, send in a drone, boom. And you hear so much garbage and filth. I saw an article the other day that it made a lot of sense. It said, just kind of in a commanding way, stop listening to idiots, because we're going to win this war. And how are we going to win it? We're going to keep killing people until we get the ones we want. and that's what we're going to do.
Exactly.
And I got no bones with that. I mean, that's what they've done. They've done it for 47 years. Let's do it. Let's do it for about another 4 or 5 weeks, and erase that 5 decades of hell that they put the world in. And it's a few more weeks, and it'll be done.
Absolutely. And I saw just before we get on the air here, as we record this, that our allies are going to be jumping on board, protecting ships as they make their way through the straits, which I think will definitely be a great thing for energy prices, because right now that's what the news is touting. Oil. Oil's reached $120 a barrel. Gas prices are up. Rod, where's it end? Where's it begin? Where's it headed towards?
Well, I've got an article coming out tomorrow on a lot of the intricacies of what's going on with our allies, and particularly with the insurance market and the dagger that Donald Trump has pointed at the heart of Lloyd's of London and their peers in the city. But beyond that, yeah, the Europeans came around, and they came around in a joint statement today, along with the Japanese, that completely contradicted everything they'd been saying the rest of the week. So what was that? Well, let's just sum it up with the German chancellor and the German foreign minister. The German chancellor scoffed that this is not our war. Well, excuse me there, fella, because you've been hectoring us about Ukraine for years now, while you guys actually sent more money to Moscow than to Kiev, because you made yourselves dependent on Russian energy when we told you not to. So I don't want to hear it's not our war. It's your oil and gas coming from the Persian Gulf to Germany, not to Louisiana. Okay, but the German defense minister actually made it worse. And I think this was just a tremendous example of sticking your foot in your mouth, and probably in part led to where we are today. The German defense minister told reporters that, and he's laughing, he's mocking the idea that the United States would need Europe. And he says, what would a handful of European frigates be able to do compared to the mighty U.S. Navy? And some of us in the White House in particular, stopped and said, you're right. There isn't anything you people can do that is worth the 70% of NATO's bill we have been footing for the last umpteen decades. You guys are worthless. Why are we allied with you? Even Estonia is contributing minesweepers, and the Israelis are great allies. The Gulf states have been really solid allies. They're not actually directly involved in the war, but they're doing their part. Why are we allies with France, Britain, Spain, Germany, if this is your attitude? So I think some people had some pretty frank heart-to-hearts about that. I think you're going to see them move closer and closer to that 5% target they promised. And I think a lot of this changes. And I'll just say, Donald Trump's aim is not to split up NATO. Donald Trump's aim is to make it stronger so that we don't have to carry the burden all the time, and they can police their area, and we can focus wherever the crisis is at the moment, wherever it is in the world. That's a much better solution. That's how he's dealing with Japan and South Korea and Taiwan and Australia and even India too. But bottom line, if they won't pull their weight, we shouldn't be paying for their defense.
I couldn't agree more. And I think we see this president, he is the master at setting traps. And that's what he did. He set a trap for NATO to where they started seriously thinking about what happens in a world where we won't be part of NATO. And you had to scare them, and you had to talk about getting out of NATO, and you had to basically call them worthless idiots in the public stage and make our allies mad at us. So what? If that's what it takes to get the job done and make them do their part, so be it. I'm all for it. And we all should be. So that's, when I saw him doing it, I knew that's exactly what he was doing, setting the trap for NATO, get those people to admit they're incompetent idiots, and then they got to do something different.
Yes, they did.
And for 75 years, nobody's told
them on the air, because we're under the crunch of time here. Before we came on the air, you talked about you had an economic stat list you'd like to talk with us about here. Why don't you roll through
First-
some of that, and we'll get Rod interjecting there as you roll through the list.
First off, inflation. Trueflation has come up to about 1.55%. So we've seen about 80 basis points increase in inflation. So oil prices have come up very quickly. They are adding, but I still believe with all my heart and soul that trueflation is a far, far, far better number to make decisions from when you talk about inflation. So they come up that quick, they'll go down that quick. But just put my eyeballs on so I can see. Jobs report was off $92,000 or 92,000 jobs. A lot of that seems like it was the government employees coming off of their buyouts, because they couldn't get on unemployment until their buyout money was taken and fully, run through or whatever. Fourth quarter GDP is about 1.4%, not real good. But when we starting to look at numbers this quarter, PMI was up 52.4, strong retail sales, high household net worth is still strong and growing. Q1 GDP estimate is 2.1%, 2.1 to 2.4. Reported inflation, the fake inflation from the BS or BLS, is at 2.4. So even their number is pretty good. And again, the real numbers 1.52. Housing starts up 1 million, so we're getting there. Retail sales were up 7%. If you knock off a 2.4% fake inflation number, you still come up with 4.6% retail sales growth. Wages up 3.8%, well above inflation. So people are actually getting more money to spend, and they're able to take it further. Part of the job losses we're seeing, a lot of retirements and deportations. That's not a problem. It's just a short-term transition. 4.4% unemployment, still near historic lows. Boomers hold half the wealth of America, and it will get inherited and spent over the next coming decade. We talk a lot about a K economy where you're either going up because you're wealthy or you're going down. It's more like instead of going up and going down, the going down side's more moving sideways. The low-income families they're benefiting from the last tax bill, but it hasn't kicked in fully yet. And I'm seeing it. I'm seeing the tax returns. We're turning out hundreds already. They're all significantly bigger than they were last year. And the other part of it is the economy is driven by our high net worth income families, and they're not going to stop spending. So the lower income families, and Christ told us we should always take care of the poorest among us, but they're not the ones who haven't done anything for the economy. It's the richest among us, and they're not going to quit spending. So I see the economy in pretty good shape. I haven't changed my view of where we're going to end up by the third quarter of this year and by the midterms economically. I think if anything, the spike in inflation now coming from oil may actually be a benefit, because in 5 or 6 weeks it's going to come crashing back down, and that whole affordability conversation is going to go away.
I just say, on energy in particular, the factor that everybody is just ignoring as if, it's just a given, is the risk premium in the price of oil that's existed for decades because Iran was holding this dagger over the Strait of Hormuz. So you take that off the board, and it's not just that prices are going to come back down to where they were. Prices are going to drop lower than that because that risk premium goes away. And not just that, but every armed conflict in the Middle East today is armed, directed, and funded by Iran. So, can the Houthis continue to function after the Islamic regime is gone? Sure, but not at the level they have been, not with the armaments they do have. All of that starts going away. They can't manufacture most of that stuff. So they start getting to the point where they're shooting down the next to last one and the last one, which is exactly where Iran is today on its ballistic missiles. So the long-term outlook here is fantastic. I'm still bullish for middle of the year. I think you're going to see a lot of these plants that are getting constructed come open and online, and there's going to be a lot more hiring as a result of that. We're also seeing some positive things with AI, where companies that were talking about laying people off because of AI actually have figured out that they need more skilled people to direct the AI, and they're demanding more of their existing people because the AI makes them more productive. So that's not going at all the way we were told it would a year ago. As by the way, this show has been saying for about a year. So, I'm very encouraged about where we're going.
Our batting record here is incredible, boys. I'll just say that. Our batting record, our batting average with what we talk about and where we're at is very, very stout. So, Dean, I'll give you the last thoughts here in the side of the business.
Go back to that article. Quit listening to idiots. Just stop. It's that simple.
Where can people that aren't idiots find you online, Dean?
OwenCPA.com, OWENCPA.com. Jump online, connect with my team, and let us help you disinherit the government and not your children.
The Martin Report, delivered fresh daily, sometimes twice daily. Rod Martin, talk to us about it.
Come to rodmartin.org. That's rodmartin.org, where we do daily geopolitical analysis that Fox Business calls absolutely phenomenal. We've got tens of thousands of subscribers for that. We've got hundreds of thousands of followers on social media. There's a reason. So come to rodmartin.org.
Absolutely. And you can find us online at freedomchamber.net. You own a business, know somebody that owns a business, make sure you're a part of it. We appreciate you, Rod. We appreciate you, Dean. Thanks so much for being here. And this has been the Business Pulse. Healthcare costs are crushing America's small businesses. Premiums have risen over 240% in the last decade, forcing companies to choose between growth and healthcare coverage. The Freedom Chamber, found online at freedomchamber.net, has a better solution: the Guardianship Healthcare Plan. Designed by a doctor who understands that strong care starts with a strong doctor-patient relationship. This plan puts people first while protecting your bottom line. With up to 45% annual premium savings, the Guardianship Plan delivers real care, real savings, and real freedom. Your business, your employees, your health plan needs the Guardianship. The Freedom Chamber Guardianship Plan. Get your quote today. Learn how your business can take control of healthcare. Visit freedomchamber.net, the pro-American business network.